Georgia, New Jersey, Michigan.
We're the police. Don't tell us to settle down.
Cases divided by hundreds of miles, threaded by a simple connection. A search for robbery suspects created a trail of victims. November 25th, 2022, DeKalb County Police stop a car along I-20. The driver was Randall Reid. The 29-year-old was wanted.
You got 2 theft warrants. They're both in Louisiana. So I'm gonna have a subject in custody. It's gonna be him.
It would not be him.
I swear to God, I ain't never been to Louisiana. I don't do nothing, no like that.
Who would get you involved?
I don't know, because I got my license. I don't even know nobody in Louisiana.
Randall had never been to the state, yet officers in 2 jurisdictions there accused him of stealing purses in Jefferson Parish and Baton Rouge. His attorneys say Louisiana law enforcement linked him to the crime he did not commit by using facial recognition technology. FRT is software that analyzes facial features, comparing one image to another to confirm a match or offer a limited set of results with similarities. At the time of Randall's arrest, neither he nor DeKalb PD knew Louisiana officers used the technology to ultimately issue warrants.
How often does what happen? When it's not the right person? I never know if it's the right person.
Put your phone in your pocket.
It was not the right person in this arrest either.
So I don't get to go in my house.
No.
And I got a warrant for retail fraud. Go home, settle down, bro.
I got a warrant for retail fraud.
In January 2020, using facial recognition technology, Detroit police linked Robert Williams to this surveillance video. The video shows a man stealing watches from a Michigan jewelry store. Robert, his family, and attorneys allege in a lawsuit detectives failed to thoroughly investigate beyond using the software.
Arrested me for absolutely no reason other than whatever you seen on a picture it's not real.
You could be doing every single thing right and still be arrested as if you've done something wrong.
Right.
They made a mistake, baby. It's okay. I'll be back in a minute.
The father did not come back for days. And in New Jersey, it was about 10 days before Niger Parks came home.
They don't do police work now with the facial recognition. Like, you just can't take the facial recognition and say, oh, the computer said it was him, so it's him.
February 2019, this scene unfolds outside a Woodbridge, New Jersey hotel. A suspect parked in a Dodge Challenger is accused of stealing from the gift shop. As officers are questioning the driver, he cranks up his car.
He took off!
The driver nearly hits police. Court documents reveal law enforcement later used facial recognition technology to run the actual suspect's fake license through the system. It falsely linked Niger to the crime he did not commit.
Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, shoplifting, eluding. My jaw just dropped. It was just like, huh? Like, where did you get all this from?
All 3 jailed, all falsely matched, all black men. A national study finds FRT use contributes to greater racial disparities in arrests. The author, Dr. Thaddeus Johnson, is a professor at Georgia State University, and not only does he teach students about this, he trains police, and he's a former officer.
Had this technology been available to you 10 years ago or even today if you were still an officer, would you use it?
I mean, I probably would.
But not as a final decision in a case. Dr. Johnson's study examines FRT deployment in more than 1,100 cities and subsequent arrests in 2016. The results show agencies which use FRT had a 55% higher arrest rate for black people and a 22% lower arrest rate for white people compared to agencies that did not use facial recognition.
Bias can be embedded on the very front end.
According to the report, contributing factors in racial disparities include black people are overrepresented in image databases like mugshots, so they carry a greater risk of being misidentified. Plus, the lack of racially diverse programmers to train and build these algorithms. Also, the absence of federal guidelines to interpret these results And finally, the psychological effect of workers relying on shortcuts for time-sensitive, high-stakes decisions.
More recent data by the National Institute of Standards and Technology reveals FRT has a wide range in accuracy across developers. For example, systems created in China have more accuracy in identifying Asian faces. Additionally, when it came to U.S. databases, the highest false positives were in people of color, Indian, African American, and Asian.
We can use this technology, but we can't do it at the expense of inequity and discriminatory policing, whether we mean to or not.
Georgia, New Jersey, Michigan, cases divided by hundreds of miles, cases threaded by a simple connection. Facial recognition technology was used to wrongfully link a black male to a crime he did not commit. FRT is software that analyzes facial features, comparing one image to another. November 2022, DeKalb police arrest Randall Reid in Atlanta.
You got 2 theft warrants. They're both in Louisiana.
The 28-year-old was wanted out of Jefferson Parish and Baton Rouge for stealing purses, except he'd never even been to the state.
I swear to God, I ain't never been to Louisiana. I don't do nothing, like that.
Who would use your name? Like, who would get you
I
involved?
don't know, because I got my license. I don't even know nobody in Louisiana.
I'm asking where is he exactly?
2 years before this happened, in 2020, Detroit police came to cuff Robert Williams outside his Michigan home.
Oh, settle down, bro.
Police used facial recognition to link the father to the crime in this surveillance, a man stealing watches from a jewelry store. Robert, his wife, and attorneys allege in a lawsuit detectives failed to thoroughly investigate beyond using the software.
Arrested me for absolutely no reason other than whatever you seen on a picture it's not real.
In 2019, similar story for Niger Parks. Woodbridge, New Jersey officers using the technology to link Niger to stealing from a hotel gift shop and trying to take off in this car, nearly hitting police.
He took off! My jaw just dropped. It was just like, huh? Like, where did you get all this from?
All 3 jailed, all black men, and in each case, it appears the agencies which use the facial recognition did not follow an agency policy because one did not exist, or what did exist had no clearly defined standards, lawsuits claim.
They have to have probable cause to issue a warrant for your arrest.
We found in the case where Randall Reid was arrested in Atlanta for theft charges, neither Louisiana law enforcement agency followed a facial recognition policy because neither had one on record.
Just 2 people that look alike. That is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Cobb County Chief Stuart Van Hooser just implemented the program, but also a 6-page policy. Only 9 staff out of 1,000 are authorized to use it.
2 reasons for that. Number 1, the training is easier to do with a small number of people. And number 2, accountability.
Accountability starting with how they match photos.
It is not a match, and that's not the terminology we use. To us, it's a lead.
While some departments consider results a match, Cobb County Police Captain Darren Hull argues it should be treated simply as a tip, something officers must vet.
This technology is moving forward.
Based on Cobb's regulation, specialists must follow 6 steps. Software-based comparison first, then human-based comparisons next, essentially having investigators study the images with their own eyes, peer review by supervisors, investigation to search for corroborating evidence, back to a supervisor once again. Only then can it go before a judge for a warrant, in which detectives also disclose to the judge they use facial recognition.
I would use facial recognition with any criminal act because I trust it. I don't trust it to make a case for me. I trust it to open doors of investigations for us.
Their surveillance is silent, but the video speaks for itself. March 26, 2022, a passenger boards a Maryland public transit bus. Police records detail a dispute over face mask. After arguing, the passenger snatches the driver's phone and leaves. The driver follows the suspect off, trying to get her phone back. The man hits her repeatedly. Maryland Transit Authority police immediately issue this, an alert to Baltimore area law enforcement, a screenshot of the suspect.
How you doing, sir?
5 days later, police make an arrest.
These gentlemen have a warrant for your arrest. I'm not sure.
Charging Alonzo Sawyer with robbery and assault. U.S. Marshals take him into custody for the crime Transit PD says he committed.
Hey, you got me baffled. I work, so I don't understand. I'm not even living out here.
The suspect remains confused about why he's being arrested.
Sit tight, all right?
Handcuffed in the back of a police car. The drive
It was a long ride.
was unlike any other.
My mind was racing all over the place, and I don't know, man. It's like a feeling that I never had before. I was real scared.
Scared because he should not have been arrested in the first place. Facial recognition identified him as the suspect, according to detectives. An incident report outlines Alonzo's former probation officer and a state trooper ID'd him too.
And I kept telling them, that's not me. That's not me. I don't even ride a bus.
Even the victim herself told police it wasn't him. After looking at this photo lineup right under Alonzo's image, she wrote, "Not the person who assaulted me." The 56-year-old father was jailed.
Really traumatic.
With no bond.
Sitting there being so frantic.
For 9 days.
I had to prove my husband innocent.
It took his own wife, Karan Sawyer, going back to law enforcement.
This guy's short, way shorter than my husband. The outfit, the face, this is not him.
Incident reports describe the actual suspect, who since pled guilty to the robbery, was positively ID'd by his own mom.
Alonzo says the alleged criminal does kind of look like him. But that shouldn't be enough because according to Atlanta experts, facial recognition or artificial intelligence can be biased.
I'm almost ashamed to say it. I never really thought about the victim that looks like me.
Atlanta engineer Calvin Lawrence has created the same facial recognition used by some police across the country. Even he admits its flaws.
It really kind of goes back to the fact that the training models, the data that was inputted, and who inputted the data is built to mimic human behavior. So you train it.
Training algorithms is the work happening right here in this Georgia Tech lab, where researchers are proving bias can exist in technology. To showcase just how software can amplify racial disparities, they built this robotic arm.
So these are your eyes.
Professor Matthew Gomble.
Robots, you can kind of think about when a child is born, they're not like good or bad.
It was tasked with grabbing the box with a criminal pictured on it. One had an image of a white male, on the other, a black male. The researchers then built an algorithm based on mugshots, websites with divisive rhetoric, social media posts, disproportionate negative data about black people.
What's the robot going to do?
So when the robot was told to choose the criminal, over and over, it selected the blackface.
The internet taught the machine that there is a more likely relationship that a person would think that a black person is a criminal and that a white person would not be.
The whole point of the study, what goes in will come out. The algorithms used in this experiment are similar to that of facial recognition, meaning if FRT systems have disproportionate data in them or software that hasn't been trained enough on people of color, false matches will continue.
Public regulation bodies are going to need to be involved.
Call for oversight, the exact sentiment shared by the growing list of the wrongfully accused.
To wake up one day, what if I'd have been accused of murder? You know what I mean? And if it hadn't have been for my wife, doing the legwork for me, I just would have got lost in the system.
It's a drive Gloradine Stevens Hines takes once a month. No music, no talking. The silence is loud enough. The journey doesn't end here. In many ways, it all ended 8 years ago.
How many shots did you hear?
Too many.
What's too many? Can you give us a
I couldn't even count. It was way too many.
October 7th, 2015, a party in Southwest Atlanta. Neighbors playing a game of dominoes for money. Two armed men walked in demanding the cash. The game only amounted to about $30.
That's one night I will never forget.
An armed robbery over $30. One prosecutors would call botched. They shot and killed Marquise Stevens.
They took a lot away from me. They took a lot away.
Marquise was 41, a beloved husband and dad, Gloria Dean's son.
I know he gone, but it's just hurt me so bad still. It's been 8 years. It's been 8 years.
2 men charged and convicted, one of them, Kevin Reeves. Facial recognition identified him.
Did you know that originally that facial recognition was involved?
I didn't.
She didn't even know what the technology was back then, but detectives did. At the crime scene, a witness told Atlanta police they recognized the suspect from this Instagram picture. Investigators ran that photo through facial recognition, but it was not officers that used the software for this case.
Now serving B303.
Police asked the Georgia Department of Driver Services. They had staff do the facial recognition search of their driver database and give the results back to officers. In court, Gloria Dean did not understand these details, but she knew
the right person end up in jail.
It all helped the Atlanta detective solve her son's murder.
He did a wonderful investigation. Yeah. Anything ever happened, I want him.
Because he was thorough. Although Detective Jerry and Shepard had a positive match from facial rec, he still did not arrest. Instead, records show he searched for more evidence. Officers attended candlelight vigils, put up flyers, canvassed neighborhoods. Eventually, a tipster gave the suspect's home address. The suspect's mom even gave police his phone number. Detectives then checked Fulton County jail records to see if any inmates made any recent calls to that number, a number which belonged to suspect Kevin Reeves.
This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
An inmate did happen to call 2 days after the murder.
What's going on with you, bro? I'm calling some happened, bro. I hit a in the head, bro.
What police considered Kevin's confession.
You got killed.
Officers got a warrant for Kevin's phone. Data showed cell towers placed him at the scene at the time of the shooting. A jury found Kevin guilty, due in part to facial recognition. A necessary verdict for the family of Marquise Stevens.
He was my firstborn, and the way he was taken away from me, just a blink of an eye, you know. That could happen to any mother, you know, but I just did never think it would happen to me.
The Department of Driver Services is a state agency. As a state lawmaker, did you know DDS was using facial recognition?
I did not.
Did you know the DDS was using facial recognition technology?
I actually wasn't aware of that.
Democrat State Representative Brian Prince and Republican State Representative Brad Thomas, both leaders on Georgia Legislature's Technology Committee, both just learning.
The state have to do a better job.
Now serving.
The agency tasked with providing driver's licenses, state IDs, and now even voter IDs uses that picture database for a facial recognition system.
It's something that we need to look into. It's something we need to take very seriously.
When submitting an ID application to the Department of Driver Services, or DDS, the use of this tech is not disclosed except for the general acknowledgement you're required to check off. I grant permission to the DDS to verify info and release any info to third parties, which include public and private entities. The possible private entities? Documents show since 2008, DDS has held contracts with private facial recognition companies.
It's not like the DMV is doing anything illegal.
No, and I think that is the part that is interesting, right?
Ramnath Chalapa, an associate dean at Emory who studies artificial intelligence and its impact on privacy.
You don't know when they're using that data, how they're using that data, or in what form are they using this data.
The researcher raises concerns about the unintended consequences of how it's all done. In 2015, beloved father and husband Marquise Stevens was murdered.
I don't know how I lived that night through, but I miss my son a lot.
At the time, no one had the suspect's name, but they did have this Instagram picture. A witness gave it to Atlanta police, who then sent the image to DDS. DDS ran a facial rec search using the state database of driver's license photos. Records show it delivered these 25 possible matches. This man here at the top would later be convicted of Marquise's murder. But that means these 24 other men had nothing to do with the crime. They were innocent. It's why we're blurring their faces. Yet police were able to use any of these images to potentially build a suspect lineup.
I've been in a lineup, more than likely.
I think that's probably true. We probably both have had our photos pulled into photo arrays countless times.
Kay Levine, former prosecutor, Emory professor of law.
If anybody thinks that the only people who are concerned about privacy are those people who have criminal behavior to hide, who have heroin in the trunk of their car or machine guns in their garage, they are mistaken.
Beyond privacy, she argues this could pose a court challenge, not for driving because that's only a privilege under the law, but voting, that's a right. And now in Georgia, IDs are required to cast a ballot. When a resident has no other form of ID, they can get a free voter ID card from DDS. But we confirm that same voter ID image would also be subjected to the facial recognition system.
This could be possibly a new frontier for people who want to assert an impact on their ability to vote.
Uncharted territory, one lawmakers are ready to regulate.
I think the state has a role in it, especially because your agencies, if you're funding those agencies, what they can share and what they cannot.
I think anything less than absolute maximum transparency is, anything less than that would be unwise by us as policymakers to allow that to happen.